So we have another case of a progressive, a more left-wing candidate raising money off of an endorsement that their opponent received. So this has happened a number of times now. The most recent example of this I covered on my channel. It was when Hillary Clinton endorsed Eliot Engel, with Jamal Bowman going up against Eliot Engel and ultimately defeating Engel. When that endorsement happened, the Hillary Clinton endorsement led to our second biggest fundraising day of the campaign. So Jamal Bowman raised a ton of money off of Hillary Clinton endorsing his opponent. Well, it's happened again. But before we get to that incredible fact that I will discuss, got to set it up here. So Joe Kennedy III is challenging Ed Markey in the Senate. Kennedy is this very establishment corporate Democrat, raises a ton of money from corporations, is pretending in this race that he is the progressive one, that he is this new voice because he's a young guy. But you're a Kennedy, and he's shown no fight at all for the issues that he now pretends to care about, like Medicare for all or a Green New Deal. But Kennedy here, getting endorsed by Nancy Pelosi. Let me show you her endorsement that he shared on Twitter.
Never before have the times demanded we elect courageous leaders as today. And that is why I'm proud to endorse Joe Kennedy for Senate. In 2018, when we took back the House, Joe campaigned across America to make that victory possible. He knows that to achieve progressive change, you must be on the front lines leading movements of people. Massachusetts and America need Joe Kennedy's courage and leadership in the Senate to fight for the change we need. Thank you.
So there's the endorsement. Now the translation of that is, well, Joe Kennedy raises a lot of corporate money for the Democratic Party. So I back Kennedy over Markey. And also, on top of that, Ed Markey is someone that is fighting for a Green New Deal, fighting for Medicare for all, is on the more Bernie Sanders AOC side of things, and Nancy Pelosi is also threatened by that. So those two things put together, you have this endorsement from the Speaker of the House for Joe Kennedy, who, again, is pretending that he is the progressive one here, yet getting the Pelosi endorsement. Now, before I get to the incredible news that came out of this, AOC tweeted in response to this endorsement. So here the Boston Globe had tweeted out, Nancy Pelosi is endorsing Joe Kennedy in his Senate challenge to Ed Markey. AOC here openly challenging her leader here in the House. No one gets to complain about primary challenges again. So DCCC, when can we expect you to reverse your blacklist policy against primary organizations? Because between this and lack of care around Ilhan Omar's challenger, it seems like a less policy and more cherry-picking activity. So to get to the Ilhan Omar aspect of this as well, she follows up by saying Ilhan's multi-million challenge was bankrolled by DC lobbyists and dark money groups. He blatantly admitted to using shell corporations to get around the DCCC blacklist, which all but means his vendors work with the Democratic Party. Yet DCCC hasn't enforced policy. I wonder why. So AOC here pointing out the obvious, the DCCC doesn't actually care about the initial promise that they had made here. This was from last year. DCCC promises to blacklist firms that work with candidates challenging incumbents. So the point of this was to work against groups like the Justice Democrats, who had been challenging Democratic incumbents and continue to. You saw with Jamal Bowman taking out Eliot Engel. You saw with Cori Bush taking out Lacey Clay. So the point of the DCCC doing this was to stop the ability for groups like that to be successful. Well, when it comes to primarying people like Ilhan Omar or Ed Markey, all of a sudden they don't care. Doesn't matter at all because, of course, it has nothing to do with the challenge. It has everything to do with the policies. Has everything to do with which candidate is taking the corporate money and which isn't. DCCC will always back the corporate candidates every single time. So ultimately, though, it doesn't really matter, as this is where the energy is. The energy is with Ed Markey, is with the progressive groups, is with groups like Justice Democrats, candidates like AOC, candidates like Ed Markey. This is where the support is. So Sydney Rachel Levin Epstein here, who I believe works with the Markey campaign. Yes, special projects manager for Ed Markey. Tweeted out here, money update. The Kennedy campaign said it raised more than $100,000 in response to Pelosi's endorsement. Team Markey raised more than $300,000 via 9,000 individual contributions since Pelosi endorsed Joe Kennedy. To be clear, we outraised him by triple. And this money, by the way, this Kennedy money, it's not individual contributions. It's once again largely big donor money. Large donations here for Kennedy after the Pelosi endorsement. Markey, though, getting money from the people because that's who he represents in this race, and why you should support Ed Markey in the race for Senate on September 1st. So this happened again. Whether it's Jamal Bowman, whether it's Ed Markey, they got nothing. In fact, at this point, I'm looking forward to the endorsements for candidates like Kennedy or Eliot Engel. Because when you have a Nancy Pelosi or a Hillary Clinton come out to back these corporate candidates, all it does is help the progressive challenger. So please, keep it going. keep rolling out those endorsements. And this should also excite you. This should excite you for the future. Understand that, when Biden gets in, that isn't the end. That the people need to understand the focus. You cannot just have a singular focus on the presidency. Understand where you can use your power. So be it in local races, in state races, in movements, in protest movements, in Black Lives Matter, in various challenges like this. There are ways in unionizing your workplace. There are ways you can use your power that is separate from the presidency. And this stuff will continue. People right now are fully aware of what Joe Biden and this administration coming up is about. And you'll only be able to grow that left-wing movement under a Biden presidency because they will not do what is necessary to control the impact of this pandemic. When it comes to the financial help that people need, the healthcare people need, they're not going to bring out $2,000 a month UBI. They're not going to bring out Medicare for all. So all it does is make the case for the left for more challenges like Jamal Bowman, for more people like Cori Bush. So I'm excited for the future because you already have this awareness when it comes to these sorts of candidates. And on top of that, it's going to continue to grow when more and more people realize that when a Democratic Party is in charge, not much is actually going to change unless you challenge them and push them and bring more candidates like whether it's keeping Ed Markey in the Senate or whether it's Jamal Bowman. Keep supporting candidates like that. That's the only way you're really going to have change from within the Democratic Party.